Hello everyone, welcome to this video. We are going to talk about inflation in part 4 of chapter 6. Inflation refers to the overall increase in the price level. So, if only one or two prices of goods and services increase, for example, gasoline price increase, in economics, that is not inflation. Inflation has to refers to majority of the goods and services price in general increase. It doesn't have to be increased by the same percentage. Some can be a lot, some can be a little, some can stay the same. However, it has to be the level that increase that we call it inflation. Inflation affects our economic well-being because it directly affects the cost of living. With the fixed amount of income, when there is an inflation, the goods and services that we can buy is going to be less, so we can consume less goods and services. So that is why it is important to study inflation. You might have already heard of hyperinflation, right? That's good. It refers to the rapid increase in the price level. Hyperinflation is the inflation that is out of hand. It usually goes up really fast, out of control, accelerating. Then it is hyperinflation. So by convention, if the monthly inflation rate is higher than 50%, when you calculate the yearly inflation rate, that is 13,000%, then we say, yeah, that is a hyperinflation. One typical example of hyperinflation is in Germany after World War I. And during that period of time, their yearly inflation rate is higher than 1 trillion%, because their government keep printing money, so that caused hyperinflation. During the period of hyperinflation, price increases so fast. That means the value of the money goes down every minute. For example, you just receive some money and you want to buy a sandwich, so you better just go ahead and buy it. Because if you said, oh, wait a minute, let me finish this. After an hour, if you go to buy the sandwich, you'll see that the price of a sandwich increased already. So the amount of money that you have cannot afford to buy a sandwich anymore. That is how it feels like during hyperinflation. Talking about hyperinflation, do you know there is one country that is experiencing hyperinflation right now? Do you know what is that country? Did you say Venezuela? Yes, you're right. Venezuela has been experiencing hyperinflation, especially in year 2018. Their inflation rate jumped all the way high, as high as 65,374%. By the way, there are different places that give us a different estimation rate. I got this one from Statistica. IMF give a different rate. Venezuela's central bank give a different inflation rate. But no matter what, it is just hyperinflation. And then in 2019, due to some effort, it goes down, but still a hyperinflation. In year 2020 right now, it comes down to 15,000. It is still hyperinflation, by convention. So it's better than before, but the problem is still there. Hyperinflation is caused by the government printing too much money and something else, but printing too much money is the most important factor that causes hyperinflation. How about the United States? do we ever experience hyperinflation? The answer is no. The highest yearly inflation rate over the year is nearly 30% in 1778, and then 19.66, kind of like 20%. That was in 1917. So those are far away from hyperinflation. You can say it is a high inflation, but it is not hyperinflation. And then we have deflation. It is the decrease in the price level. When you see in general, majority of the goods and services price goes down, and that is deflation. Remember this place, economy at a glance. Okay, from the at a glance table, take a look at consumer price index. That is a measure of inflation. Now you can see in March, April, and May, the price level had declined by this percentage, 0.4%, 0.8%, and 0.1%. That is deflation. So we can say from March to May, the United States experiencing deflation because the price level goes down. Okay? So what is consumer price index? The official definition is a measure of the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services. In other words, it is a price level of a market basket of consumer goods and services that a typical consumer consumes. I will use an example to explain this. Okay, so we use consumer price index to measure the cost of living, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics computes consumer price index in a monthly basis. So how does the Bureau of Labor Statistics know what kind of consumer goods and services that a typical American consumer consumes? Well, through this survey called Consumer Diary Survey, they will randomly select a household, ask them if they are willing to participate. If they are willing to participate, then they are going to send them this booklet. This booklet is the daily expense. So you can see that there are some entries over there, and then every day the household is going to enter how much money that they spend on food away from home, food for home, their clothing, shoes, and all the other products. So as long as they spend some money, they are going to enter it into this booklet. So every 2 weeks, they are going to take the fill out one and then give them another 2 weeks and let them fill out the booklets. So that is the Consumer Diary Survey. Then the Bureau of Labor Statistics will enter people's data for this expense into the overall database, and then they are going to average it. For example, they ask people, they will see how much money people spend on shoes, for example, right? And then they ask, I think it's 30,000 households. So the number of shoes that people spend money on actually is different. So they are going to add them up and then average it. So that will be the average number of shoes a typical American consumer consumes per year. That average number of shoes a typical American consumer consumes will be placed into the market basket of consumer goods and services. Okay. So for 2019, and this is the composition of how the typical Americans spend their money on. So you can see that out of our total spending, a typical American consumer spends 42.1% on rent, on housing, or the mortgage payment. Okay, and then food and beverage is this one, 14%, and so on and so forth. So do you notice that the clothes and shoes, jewelry, the spending is pretty small, 2.8%. So clothes is pretty cheap. Transportation includes the payment of the car and the what is it? The gasoline, yes, and all type of if you take bus, you take train, you take an airplane, all of those are there. And then we have Medicare, recreation, your tuition is in education over here. Communication is your phone bills, your computers, phones, and all that is in here. And then we have other goods and services. So you can see majority of our spending is on housing. Now let's see how the consumer price index is constructed. Step 1 is fix the consumer basket. Through the survey that we mentioned earlier, they gather the data from the households and then they enter it into the data space. So in their database. Okay, in their database, you can see that the things is being classified into a very great detail. Food can be food at home and food away from home. And then when under the category of food at home, there are cereals and breakfast products. And then they are being breaking down into very, very detailed. So that, these are the goods and services that has been put or placed into the consumer basket. After that, they go to the marketplace and they take notes about the price of the goods and services in the consumer basket. And then after that, they calculate the cost of the consumer basket. How much does it cost for consumers to consume this amount of goods? And then after that, they will compute the consumer price index. So I am going to stop here for this part. In the next part, I'm going to give you an example how to use these steps to calculate consumer price index. Okay? All right. Bye.